and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time here, I'm Ramira Arlilia, the owner of Your Milk LLC, where I create handcrafted skincare and self-care products. Instead of just listening to true crime stories in the background while I'm in my makeshift studio, I've decided to share them with you all every Saturday. So sit back, hit the subscribe button, and relax as we take on a new journey while I craft a new creation. Check out the description box below for more details on what I'm creating, and feel free to explore our website while you're there. Now, let's make a batch of handmade soap as we get into today's story. As mentioned, when I work on new creations, I like to have background noise, which is usually my favorite true crime channel or another guilty pleasure, pop culture news, aka celebrity gossip. I've made many a things while Scandival unfolded and can probably name almost every housewife past and present. Well, although we have the recent Diddy and Trump of it all, very rarely do these two worlds collide. I usually just pick a channel and let it play until I'm done with whatever I'm doing, but while listening to one of my all-time favorite gossip channels and noticing that he kept saying the word cult, I definitely put down my stick blender and had to pay attention to what I was hearing. Raise your hand emoji if you have heard of the alleged 7M TikTok cult and watched the 3-part Netflix docuseries exposing it. Like this video as a placeholder if you have not, so you can go and watch part 1 because, baby, there are about to be spoilers. Confession. I'm a TikTok novice. Not sure how I have over 1,000 followers that I'm thankful for, although some are obviously bots, because I have the foggiest clue what the hell I'm doing over there. I do, however, know how to scroll, and upon scrolling, I love to vicariously live through those extremely professionally edited dance videos. I have the rhythm, but lack the coordination. Apparently, if you look closely at the bios of those beloved dancers who always seem to collaborate with each other, you will see one reoccurring thing. They all have 7M in their bio, email, or as a hashtag. I ran so quickly to the Williams Film TikTok to make sure Gage didn't need me to personally go and save him from Shekinah. I seem to have gotten ahead of myself, so let's start from the beginning. The series starts by introducing us to Miranda and Melanie Wilking, better known as the Wilking sisters, from Detroit, Michigan, who took social media by storm, especially right before the pandemic. Personally, I had not heard of them specifically because, again, I just like to scroll, so I'm sure I've seen a video or two. The contrast of hearing how close the sisters were in the beginning years is soon overshadowed by learning that the once duo was now operating as separate acts. Now, I have a younger sister myself, and we too are 2.5 years apart. We have done everything together, and I'm sure if we pulled out our memory box, our sentiments would echo the same. In February of 2022, Melanie and her parents decided to go live on Instagram as a cry for help to get Miranda back into their lives. It's at this time that we hear that Miranda has potentially joined a cult by the name of Shekinah. So for someone who cannot dance and who is not familiar with the chain of events prior to this, I almost turned the docuseries off. It sounded so far-fetched that there is a secret cult on TikTok of dancers, and what does Shekinah from Love and Hip Hop have to do with it? See how my celebrity gossip blended with my true crime of it all and had my brain malfunctioning? Well, apparently, when Miranda joined this church, she cut off all ties with her family. Numbers were blocked, social media accounts were blocked. No one had seen Miranda for quite some time, to the point they felt their platform was the best way to get her attention or the attention of those who could help them locate her. Obviously, the plan worked because here we are, and in the docuseries, they transitioned to a more present day where her parents locate the church and her father interacts with what appears to be an intercom. At this point in the video, I'm still not sold on the show, because I didn't understand the magnitude of what was actually going on. I was kind of Team Miranda and thought the family seemed overbearing. The live video was a bit chaotic, and the father recording this interaction with the intercom and then sending it to Miranda on social media, knowing that he was blocked, seemed a bit odd. But as someone who watches edited shows, I had to start looking at it from a different perspective. I did not see the entire Instagram live video, so I shouldn't have been so quick to judge. The sending of the message could have been for a dramatic effect because, again, I'm watching it on Netflix. So now that I took my bias blinders off, I allowed myself to view it as a case. Which brings us to the man in question and how this whole thing got started. Robert Shea, the pastor of the Shekinah Church and the founder of 7M Films, which is the speculated management company of your most favorite viral dancers. Honestly, the first words out of Robert's mouth during his sermon gave me serious Jim Jones vibes. Sold. Miranda's in the coat, everybody. That was the exact thoughts going through my head because the way he spoke to the congregation and the way they laughed at his anecdotes seemed like it would have only been humorous to the brainwashed. As another semi-relatable moment, my grandfather is a pastor and has been my whole life. Not one sermon has centered around a single family, no matter what they did. Granted, none of them warranted a documentary or caused social media craze. But if your pastor has done that, then please let me know in the comments. The piece of his sermon that we did get to hear came off as completely unhinged, while hiding it with a hint of humor. A PR stunt, if you will, to ensure everyone that Miranda's family was trying to come after them all, instead of trying to save their daughter. The Instagram video opened the floodgates because now everybody is talking about the 7M dance cult on TikTok. News columns, magazines, you name it. It went from trying to save Miranda to noticing that it was about 11 other people that appeared to be held captive, and all had mention of 7M listed somewhere on their profile. These viral dancers had millions of followers between their social media accounts. They also had the pandemic in a chokehold with their smooth dance moves, high-quality edits, and catchy tunes that had us all trying to learn the choreography. My now 18-year-old daughter lives, breathes, and sleeps dance. She literally took her first steps to music. My sister and I were in the living room trying to get her to walk to either of us from across the room, and we started singing Shake Your Money Maker by Ludacris. I know, but it was because of how catchy the tune was. I kid you not, she legit started bouncing and stepping across the floor. So I do understand on a small scale what it looks like when you want your child to pursue their dream. But I would never want it to be at the cost of losing herself while doing it. So Robert Shea knew exactly what he was doing when he started managing these dancers and putting on this facade for millions to see. The fancy clothes, the nice cars, the beautiful mansions, and dozens of endorsements would look like the dream to any starving artist or content creator. So as this was all coming to light, of course the comment section was lit, and many were making their own TikToks with the same questions and speculations that I had. Maybe it's Miranda's family that's the problem. What proof do you have that she's in a cult? She's just a young girl living her dream in LA. This forced Miranda to make a clarifying video of her own, where she posts kind of an open letter to her fans about why she was becoming distant from her family. And honestly, to me, it wasn't a good look. It sounded very culty, with mentions of her finding her religion and her family just didn't understand. By now, since the documentary has premiered, you can easily search all the resurfaced videos and see exactly what I mean to make your own assessment. But for me, it even sounded very different than the Miranda the series opened up with. The series then goes back into the history of the Wilkins sisters and how things came to be. They seemed like a pretty close-knit family who loved to dance. After high school, Miranda came to that famous fork in the road that I love to talk about, where she had to make the decision to pursue either a theater program or move to LA and pursue dance there. LA won, and this is where Miranda got a taste of the limelight and auditioned for the popular TV competition show, So You Think You Can Dance. Rest in peace to Twitch. My mother and I watched his entire dance journey together, and she too is now gone. Her mother recalls that Miranda did sometimes appear sad, although she was living her dream, and one day she asked her if she just wanted to come home. Miranda replied with, "I want to come home, but I want this more." That honestly sounds like a typical response for someone who has a goal and wants to attain it, so the hairs on the back of my neck didn't raise with that one. But since it was clear that Miranda was not moving back home, Melanie, having never been away from her sister, decided that if Miranda was staying, then she was coming with her. So she too moved to LA with her big sister. They were back to doing everything together, from auditions to tours, and this led them to develop the Wilking Sisters brand. Their popularity and the endorsements and collaborations led to their meeting with another dance sensation, a crumper by the name of B-Dash. I'm far too busty and uncoordinated to have ever learned that dance, but I could watch Chris Brown do it all day. Through this collaboration, it appeared that Miranda and B-Dash had some kind of romantic love connection. So with that little piece of information, I was thinking, again, maybe the family is just being overprotective. Not because B-Dash was black, but they didn't really mention Miranda's dating life prior to him. So this could have been like her first boyfriend, her first true love. And we all know when that happens, you want to be up under them. So she could have become distant for that reason. But that couldn't be further from the truth, because we then learned that Melanie was invited to one of these dinners that Miranda was disappearing off to. So the dinner takes place at Robert Shin's house, and this was Melanie's chance to get a glimpse of what had been taking all of Miranda's time. There's several other victims, is what I'm calling them, of this cult that describe the same type of scenario or scenery that Melanie had experienced. But for the sake of time, I am going to provide my commentary on what she experienced. She said that Robert had asked her if she would consider herself a sinner, in which she responded that she didn't think so. But he didn't stop there. He proceeded to ask her, "What if I told you you have already sinned maybe 1,000 times today?" And then told her that if she were to die right now, she would go to hell. I would have told him, "Well, you can join me," as I politely gave him the church finger and excused myself from the dinner table. All of this is being said as they are sitting at the table with an open Bible. Now, as I've said, my grandfather is a pastor, my dad was a preacher, and my grandmother served as a chaplain assistant in the military for almost 30 years. Between all of those, I never once read a Bible at dinner, and we spent many of Thanksgivings and Christmases at my grandfather's house. No offense to anyone else who may do that, but for a first encounter, that would have raised a red flag to me. I'm just being honest. Melanie still sat at that dinner table, and my guess is because her sister was there with her. But after Robert told her this, ironically, my father's name is Robert. I don't know why I just had that thought, but he too has passed. He's not this Robert, but geez Louise, there is a lot of intertwining things with my life and theirs besides the millions of dollars and followers and all that stuff. Okay, back to Melanie. Okay, so she says that after that, they then sit in a circle with Robert in the middle, and he lays his hands on her, starts speaking in tongues, and said, "You are now saved." I would not have been able to tell you that story because my ass would have got up when he told me that I was going to hell. Again, what in the Jim Jones is going on at the Shekinah Church? Now, this is the part of the series where the crime picked up for me, because Robert was not only controlling the personal lives of his congregation, he was taking over their dance videos as well and calling himself a producer. That means he was getting paid 10% in tithes, 10% of man of God fees, 10% offering, and 20% management fees because he was calling himself the producer. That's already 50% of whatever money these dancers were making for those videos, and on top of that, he was charging them rent to stay in those mansions. Miranda's family could actually see transactions for thousands of dollars being drained from her bank account, but she, in her opinion, was doing the work of God, and that was the price that she was paying for her blessings. According to Robert, though. Sadly, their grandfather passed away in 2021, and Miranda's excuse for not leaving LA to go to the ceremony in Detroit was because she had COVID. Again, this is a pretty tight-knit group, and I know tensions were still pretty high in 2021, but her mother was not buying that, and neither was Melanie, because it did not sound like something Miranda would say at her own will. Her parents kept trying to question why she wasn't actually coming home, and it led Miranda to confess that, quote unquote, I need to ask someone closer to God than you. Cult behavior. Robert had finally gotten Miranda to prove her faith by leaving her family. The other victims of this story said that he called this phase of his teaching, die to yourself. And that means that whatever you want or whatever you need, die to it, because then it can be resurrected. He masked this as loving with God and not with mankind. So in his sermons, he was actually saying that you're not Jesus's disciple until you've died to your loved ones. What in the Jim Jones? He taught that you had to die to your family in order to save them, which makes sense that Miranda told her family she needed permission from someone closer to God than them in order to see them. They couldn't even wish Miranda any happy birthdays, and if they tried, instantly blocked. This is when Miranda's family couldn't take it anymore, and they did make that viral video because she had severed all ties with her family. Basically, they didn't even know where she was. They only found out that she had married B- through social media because they posted a video of the proposal, and they noticed that she went from waist-length brown hair to a bob that was blonde. After that video surfaced, Robert Shin spiraled out of control by making everyone sign NDAs, and if you can find that scripture in the Bible, please post it in the comments below. His sermons went from how to save souls to how to save his own ass. The police couldn't help any of the parents really because these were adult children, so they had to be the ones to ask. But if an NDA does not uphold when a law is broken, how is it that the law wouldn't investigate labor laws or sex trafficking without being prompted by the victim? I know that states take over cases all of the time, and something is telling me the taxes could definitely be fishy in this case because of how Robert is obtaining the money. But Robert Shin did some more mumbo jumbo on the congregation and convinced them that the only reason why Miranda's family was doing this is because Miranda was a white girl from suburbia and B- was a black man from Compton, and they did not want them to be together. They play another clip from Robert Shin's sermon, and hearing his voice about how 7M is going to silence those around them and end up famous was chilling and a parallel to Jim Jones. I hope nobody drinks the Kool-Aid, don't eat the spaghetti, stay clear of anything that he tries to serve you. So that is my take on episode 1. I really wanted to do 1, 2, and 3 in the same video, but I am really trying to keep these videos under 20 minutes as best I can because you can only make soap for so long. I have now passed that time, so let's keep the discussion alive in the comments. Do you believe this is a cult or young adults living their dreams and their families are just misunderstanding? I'm curious to know your thoughts because, as you see, I have a plethora. I'm also seeing that some people are speculating that possibly Twitch was a part of this cult. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Tune in next week as I recap episode 2 of the Netflix docuseries titled The Escape. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, self-care, don't drink the Kool-Aid, and stay safe.